This is the House of Hockey podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. Hockey is more than a game, it's a lifestyle. It's you, the diehard supportive fans, your favorite players who are on the team you cheer for and the organization who supports them.
The companies that make your gear, bags, and beer league sweaters. The hockey moms and hockey dads and everything else that makes this House of Hockey your home. Come on in. I'm Breezy.
And I'm Rae Rae.
And this is our house. Hey guys, welcome back to the House of Hockey podcast. This is episode 39. I was going to say 40. It's 39. I am one of the hosts, Breezy.
And I'm the other host, Rae Rae.
And this week we have a powerhouse of an interview. He's very well known in the hockey world, especially in the alumni as of right now. Illuminati, I think. I was thinking of Illuminati. Oh gosh, that's where my head's at right now. Whew.
Yeah.
Anyway,
not the Illuminati. You haven't had power, so the Illuminati have taken over your brain. How did you even say it? You said it so magically.
Illuminati.
Illumini.
No.
Illumini. You said Illumini, yes.
Illuminati.
We're inventing words here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's us. Anywho.
So he's an alumni of what team? I'll let you finish. I know what team it is.
I don't know
The Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers.
Yes.
He's a hockey Hall of Famer. We totally buried the lead there. He's a hockey Hall of Famer. He's one of the 100 greatest players ever. Defenseman, fighter, sweetheart, really, even though he'd probably be mad that we said that, but he's the nicest guy ever. Brad Park is joining us this episode for an incredible conversation.
Yeah, and it was so much fun to talk to him, and I feel really bad that I just messed up this whole entire intro for someone so legendary, but you know what? That's the kind of, page we're on after the interview with Brad, and It was so much fun.
But the conversation with Brad was so fascinating because he played hockey. He was drafted in the mid to late 60s. So it was such a different time than everybody is so familiar with, at least most of you all listening. Like, it's just a totally different era of hockey. The game is the same in some respects, though Brad does argue what he does and does not like about today's game, and gives you very legit strategic reasons why. He's such a student of the game. He shares hilarious stories about time with his teammates and traveling on the road. He shares his favorite memory, which is going to surprise some people, that it wasn't related to a memory when he played with the NHL. So yeah, it was great. He's the conversation and the stories, like, we just scratched the surface with him.
We really did. And we're really excited for you guys to hear it.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Yes, you're going to love it. Brad's great. Where did you go motocross racing? What was that dune buggy? What the fuck is that called? Where were you? What did you do? This is what we're doing, guys, by the way, because there is no hockey.
It was so much fun. It was Thanksgiving weekend, so I ended up leaving Saturday morning, and my nephew's girlfriend, her name is Sarah, she actually proposed for us to create a new segment, which we're going to do. Her family goes to the desert quite often. They're little desert rats, I guess is what they're called. I have no idea if that's true or not, but we're going to go with it. So they invited us to come out and hang for the day and go for a couple rides. And it was
what is so it much called?
Fun. That was a Can-Am. So it's like basically a race car on dirt, I would say. I mean, it was awesome. The suspension's cool. yeah, I don't know. It was so much fun. I can't even describe it. I'm definitely probably going to buy myself one now. She's constantly like sending me these like listings and whatnot. So it's going to happen. I just got to find the right one. So
we have decided to swap segments this week. So usually I do shut the front door and Breezy does Breezy's barbecue pit. So we're going to flip this week.
Breezy's barbecue pit. Yes.
So this involves food. It doesn't necessarily involve barbecue, though there is food. So I went to a dinner and I went to a family friend of mine who's like an uncle to me. You know, I call him Uncle Neil, but we're not actually related, but that kind of relationship. And he lives in Beverly Hills and lives in a big fancy house and had me over for dinner with just two other people. So small group, and we kept our distance and the whole thing. And he told me to bring a dessert. So I brought a pecan pie that my other uncle had made that was frozen that I hadn't eaten. I thought I'll find a time to take this pecan pie somewhere. So I bring my re-gifted pecan pie to his house with vanilla ice cream. And I get there and I bring in my pie and I'm all proud and like, oh, great, I brought the only dessert for tonight. So we go into the kitchen and he's like, look at who that box is from on the kitchen counter. And I'm reading it and it says like, dear Neil and Kevin, that's his husband, happy holidays, season's greetings, Tom Cruise. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Tom, Tom Cruise, he sent you a Christmas cake and he sent him a cake. He sent him like some fancy coconut cream cake. I'm like, Tom Cruise one fucking upped my pecan pie that was a re-gifted gift. I look like such an asshole. Of course, Tom Cruise today of all the days decides to send his giant coconut cream cake on the day that I'm supposed to bring dessert. And on top of that, there was a third dessert that the chef that had come had made. So there was a cobbler, there was my pecan pie, not even my pie, and Tom Cruise's coconut cream cake.
So Tom Cruise stole your thunder.
Yep.
Not everyone can say that.
I know. And he doesn't even know he did it.
Did you at least try any of the desserts?
Oh, I tried all three, of course.
Oh, good. And whose was better? Yours, I bet.
Well, it depends on, it was such a varying degree of desserts. They did really enjoy the pecan pie. They did say it was really good. And the coconut cream cake was really good. I mean, I've never had.
Tom Cruise had made it.
Yeah. Like he paid like a bakery to make like 10,000 of these that he ships to everybody, that he's worked with. Man. So
no, I think that he probably made all of them himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go with that.
And like, this is just like a snippet of my life. Like amounts of crazy stuff that happens, like non-hockey related. This is it. But so since it was food related, I thought it will make it Breezy's barbecue, even though it doesn't really apply. Shut the front door.
I'm going to say this because I kind of know the guy a wee bit. Jake Paul.
Yes.
Evander Kane. What's going on with this? Evander Kane, I mean, is his name a household, well-known name in the hockey world? When you think of hockey, am I thinking of Evander Kane? No. Do you think he's doing it to try to get, to pump his own tires and make himself puff up his chest or whatever? Or do you think that he's doing it because he really thinks he can beat Jake Paul?
Both.
Probably.
Both. I mean, his name is Evander, like Evander Holyfield. I'm pretty sure that's
True.
he might be named after him, he might not, but he loves to talk shit, like with Revo.
Yeah.
Okay, but
But
I
I'm
didn't
thinking
know.
like,
Let me just say this. I didn't even know who the hell Jake Paul fucking was until Evander Kane started saying, like, I'll fight that whatever guy. I'm like, who's this
yeah.
Jake Paul? I don't really.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked with him in the past. Like I know the guy. He lives really close to me.
So you
It's
like
one of those things.
actually know him. Like, I don't know Tom Cruise, but you actually know Jake Paul.
Well, I'm not gonna say I actually know him. I've been in his presence of multiple times. I think I might have spoken one or two words to him. I'm not gonna say I know the guy because then like someone's gonna be like, well, you don't really know him. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not
Well,
friends with
wait,
him. Let's just say
what's the
that.
backstory of how did Evander Kane get involved with this? He just
Because
tweeted
he
at him that
was
he would beat him up because he lost a fight or something.
well, no, Jake Paul talks a lot of crap and like he says that now he's coming after people and this and that, and like he KO'd some dude. So then
In a
Evander
like
Kane just
fight.
kind of like yeah. So
Okay.
Evander Kane just came up and was going at it or whatever. I don't know. And then Max Domi kind of chimed in a little bit, saying like, "Hey, buddy, slow down." To Jake Paul, and then friggin' Biz Nasty shows up and he's saying, and now I'm thinking to myself, and I was like, I feel like I would rather see Biz and Evander fight, and who would win on that? Who would you say?
I would say Evander, just because Biz has been out of the game a little while now. Not that he's
I'm gonna
soft,
I'm
just
gonna
that.
say Biz though. I'm
All
going with
right.
Biz because I mean I feel like he just can be like, oh, this is my time. I gotta make this count, and I gotta make all of Arizona proud. I'm just gonna boom, one and done. That's what I'm going with. I was a little like, this freaking guy. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Anyway,
I agree. He shouldn't mess with hockey players. Nope.
no, I was thinking Evander Kane. I mean,
Oh, Evander,
Jake
not
Paul.
Jake
Jake
Paul.
Paul was like, "Who is this guy? He plays for the San Jose Sharks. Is that an aquatic animal in San Jose?" It was so funny, and I'm just like, it's true because at the same point, I mean, unless you're a fan of the Sharks or we're a fan in Buffalo of him, I mean, I don't think he's a really well known, popular name. Sorry for any of those fans, and if you are ever listening, I'm sorry. Uh, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I was like, you're coming after some guy who, I mean, he's an internet like he's a huge like influencer, I guess is what you can say. Jake Paul is, and so it's like I don't know. It just kind of was. It was weird.
All
It was
right.
weird.
Hey, I mean, Evander's been, not very busy because he didn't have any
It's true.
off-season action. And, what else the guy got
And I'm
to
not.
do?
Yeah, and I'm not sticking up for Jake Paul. I'm not a Jake Paul fan. Let's just be real. I'm just stating this whole thing that's going down, and I'm just like, uh, uh, uh,
Yeah.
okay,
So shut the front door, Evander Kane, all right? Stick to
yeah,
what you know. Stick to
stick
who
to
you
hockey.
know.
Our new segment is something that I'm going to rewind it again. My nephew's girlfriend, Sarah, suggested we do. She is a podcast listener of ours. She's very dedicated. She always likes to talk to me about it. It's super awesome. She thinks that we should be doing a little clip of Unpopular Opinions Hockey Edition.
Ooh.
So, what other way to start it off other than we have a OG hockey player coming on here shortly, Brad Park. Brad used to play in the game with no helmets, zero helmets. Now the game was a little bit different, a little slower paced, I would say, but they hit, knuckles to knuckles pretty hard. No, no face mask, nothing like that. I mean, he tells us a story. I mean, you got skates going to heads and whatnot, and then you have our game today, fast paced, heavy hits. They're still going, knuckle to knuckle pretty hard. Who do you think is the tougher game, the tougher crowd? Do you think that guys back in the '60s are more tough than our guys today?
Yes.
Or no?
My unpopular opinion is going to be that the guys of the Brad Park era in the 70s are way tougher than today. First of all, a lot of them played like wasted most of the time or not, with no helmets, with the endurance, and the like fighting was way more common and allowed back then than it is today. We hardly see it in today's game. And they just loved it. They loved the game. They didn't wear like nearly the pads, and they're getting thrown into like real wood boards. Like, I don't even think the boards are made of wood anymore. They're made of like poly whatever something, like that shit hurts. My unpopular opinion is that the guys of the olden days of hockey are way tougher.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I can't even wrap my head around playing the sport with the gear that they used to wear. I mean, you got to figure it wasn't the today's technology and whatnot. The no face shield or helmet or anything like that. That stresses me out. So I'm gonna go with the older guys. They're definitely more tough than today's, for sure.
Yeah, I think tough is the important word here, because harder, I would say today's game is harder from an endurance physicality of the game. But that is reflected in today's training methods of like, they're all into, not all of them, but a lot of them are into like very into the diet and the food and how to really make your body into an endurance machine that can handle the speed and the fastness of the dump and chase style of play today. And not the physical toughness of like the game of yesteryears.
Right. Well said.
All right.
Well said.
And
there we have it.
Brad Park, make sure you stick through to the end of the interview, because he has some wise words for all of today's hockey players, and it has to do with toughness. Proud to be on the Hockey Podcast Network, and the network is home to many other incredible podcasts, including this one.
Hello and welcome. My name is Brad Lieb. I am a former professional hockey player, and this is the Life After Hockey podcast. This is the place where I'll be interviewing former players and exploring their life after hockey journeys, including their successes, challenges, and the causes that they are passionate about. So please join me on the Hockey Podcast Network every Saturday for new episodes, and follow me on Twitter at Brad M. Lieb for all my podcast updates. And until then, keep going and enjoy your life.
This week, we have more hockey royalty joining us, more like a step above hockey royalty, because he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, a 9-time All-Star, we think, one of the 100 greatest NHL players in history. He was drafted number 2 overall in 1966 by the New York Rangers. He was a captain for the Rangers. He played 17 years in the NHL. He's currently the 13th all-time in NHL history in defense scoring. Welcome, Brad Park.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Pleasure to be here.
Holy cow, those are a ton of hockey accomplishments. And we're going to get into a lot of that. But first, how's your golf game? Because that's what you've been doing a lot in your post-hockey career, right?
Well, during the winter, I spend the winter in Florida, so I do play quite a bit down here, and I have moments of greatness, and just wish I had more of them.
So moments of greatness then.
Yeah.
Not a full-on great golf game.
Well, some days it's very good, and some days it's very bad. And when it's very good, I make a little money, and when it's very bad, I lose a little money.
Oh yeah,
But the money makes it interesting. Yeah, it's hard to play for nothing.
That's true. But there's never a bad day when you're playing golf, right?
No, there really. The weather may be bad, but it keeps you occupied. And as I used to joke, for 5 or 6 hours, it keeps me out of a bar.
It's true.
So you have to look at the positive side.
Yep. Always, because you can't always hit them straight.
Well, you try to. They go straight in maybe not the right direction, but sometimes they go straight, dead left or dead right.
I think they call that hooking and slicing.
Yeah, and then the helicopters show up. That's when you throw your club and it goes boom, 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 boom.
I love it. Well, I think before we even dive into some of your career, people you've played with, paint us a picture for us, because Breezy and I grew up watching a different kind of hockey than one that you played. So paint a picture of what that time of hockey was like from on ice to off ice and that lifestyle.
Well, I think you have to understand when I first got drafted back in the 60s, the NHL had this stereotype that junior hockey. See, Canada had junior hockey. They didn't have college. College hockey wasn't big, and the reason for that was there was no athletic scholarships in Canada. So all the best hockey was played in junior. And the NHL at that time, two things where they really didn't go was they weren't really interested in college players because they had it in their mind that if a player went to college was because he wasn't good enough to play junior hockey. And the other stereotype they had was Europeans could not play at the aggressive nature of the hockey in North America. So at that time, through the 60s, very few college players were coming in, and definitely no Europeans. And when I got drafted, there was only 6 teams, and they had a 16-year-old draft. And the reason they had a 16-year-old draft is probably in the early 60s, they didn't have a draft. They found that all the good French Canadian players were signing C forms for $100 with the Montreal Canadiens, and all the English Canadians were signing C for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the 4 American teams, which were Chicago, Detroit, Boston, New York, weren't getting a shot at the most talented Canadian players. And they needed a 16-year-old draft in order to draft a player, promising player, put them on their junior hockey teams because the NHL owned the junior teams, and groom them through junior and get them up through their system that way. I was the last year of that 16-year-old draft, and they realized that at 16, they really didn't know what would happen. Okay. And one of the reasons I was probably a perfect example. At 15, I was 5 foot tall, and I wasn't on anybody's radar. And then the next year, I grew 10 inches, and it still took me 6 months for my coordination to come back,
right?
Because of my new height and size. But they realized that 16 was too. You really couldn't you really couldn't pick them because they weren't turning out. So they changed the draft to 20. So I was the last year of the 16-year-old draft. And I was actually 17 at the time. And I finished my first year of junior hockey. And the New York Rangers had second pick of the 6 teams. And they picked me with their, so I was the second pick in the first round. The Boston Bruins had first pick and passed on me, even though they had a scout that told them that I was the guy. But the Bruins were cheap. It cost $3,000 to draft a guy, and they wanted the $3,000 to go to their junior team, so they drafted a fellow named Barry, a defenseman named Barry Gibbs out of the Estevan Bruins in Manitoba, or Saskatchewan. And so I could have been in Boston from day one with Bobby Orr, but I ended up in New York, and which was really a blessing with Emile Francis and the team they had at that time.
What was it like playing in New York at that time? Like, just the glory days of New York. Were you guys popular? Did people care in New York? Like, were you recognized everywhere you went?
No. No. I could walk down the street in New York and nobody'd even recognize you or know. I mean, New York had 2 baseball teams, 2 basketball teams, 2 football teams. They had Broadway stars, everything like that. So hockey was well down the totem pole. And but they have a tremendous fan base of Ranger fans, which were that building would rock. The original Madison Square Gardens was done by the same architecture firm that did the Boston Gardens. So they were like identical buildings. And then when I got there, they had just opened up the new building where it is now. And that was the 17,000 seating capacity. And they could get that building to rock like you wouldn't believe.
I've heard it actually shakes.
Well, it's on the 5th floor, so I would hope so. You don't realize that there's a train station. Penn Station is under it. So in those days, we lived in a community about an hour outside of New York and on Long Island called Long Beach. And the reason was that was a summer community, so we could rent those houses because we were all basically Canadian. And we had a visa from September to June. So we could rent those places for the season, but it was an hour outside of New York, and we'd have to drive in or take the train in. So, and we only went into the city for the games.
Was there a practice arena there?
We did. We went to, there was a rink on Long Island in New Hyde Park called Skateland. And when you went there, the ice was like this, it had frost heave and everything. And I remember I got called up my first time, and I was staying in a hotel downtown, and I had to ride out with the trainers and the equipment. I had to ride in the back with the equipment out to practice. And being a rookie, I'm helping the trainers unload the bags, and I'd take them into the rink. And Jimmy Young, one of the trainers, he's standing at a doorway, and he's throwing the bags down these stairs to the basement. And I walked in and I said, Jimmy, why don't you turn the lights on? He says, I'm not turning the lights on till the rats leave. Dead serious.
No.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah. And we had a little dressing room down there, and they broke through the foundation and took out a whole bunch of dirt and created a shower. We had to step through the cement wall into the shower. So, what you think of the NHL.
You don't think that.
You don't think that. I mean, growing up in Toronto and seeing how well the Maple Leafs were treated, everything, going to New York and this ice rink that went like this, and the dressing room in the basement. It was quite an experience.
I bet. Jeez. What was a day in the life of you playing, back then? I mean, I feel like now, we've talked to a couple, former players before, but more recent former players. And it seems like their schedule was somewhat similar to NHL players today. But, when you were playing, like you said, you only traveled to the city to play games. How was your routine going into practice and whatnot?
Well, we would.
You weren't drinking beers before, right?
Well, we tried not to, but no, we never. It's one thing I learned really early on that you don't have a beer until your work's done. And the interesting thing was the day of the game. If we were playing at home, we'd get up in the morning and we would carpool in. We'd probably leave about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'd drive depending on traffic because we'd have a 10:30 meeting or 10:30 skate and an 11 o'clock meeting on the day of a game. So we'd leave there in at least an hour and a half to make sure you got there, depending on traffic. And you'd go there, and at 10:30 you'd have a skate if you wanted. It was pretty much optional. It wasn't, if you wanted to go, you did. And then you would have a meeting at 11 o'clock, and then you'd prepare your sticks, etc. Then you'd walk across the street to the hotel. We had a hotel across the street, and we'd have a game meal. And every game meal was baked potato, salad, baked potato, steak, green ball bearings, which were peas, and ice cream with chocolate sauce. That was the meal.
Ooh.
And then you'd have a nap, and then you'd walk back across the street to the rink for the game that night. In the meantime, the wives would carpool in for the game, and then you'd be able, everybody would have vehicles to go home after.
Yeah. What was it like having a relationship and playing hockey at the time? Is it the same as it is today for the guys, where you sort of, and then raising kids on top of that,
Yeah, it is the same. I mean, number one, money's it was a huge factor. I mean, my first year as a number one pick is I made $10,000 a year. That was my first year's salary.
That's a lot of money, though.
It is, yeah.
But I made $11,000 my next year.
Oh, big spender.
Yeah. So it was, it wasn't until 72 when the WHA came in that, salaries, you had a chance to barter and raise your income level.
I couldn't imagine making, $10,000 or $11,000 a year and living in New York. Like, that blows my mind.
Well, you have to understand, and this is kind of a cute story. The first year, so I get, the Rangers sent me to Buffalo for a couple of months. I'm there for 17 games, and I have 14 points and, 51 minutes in penalties, and, young, and, I was very good at initiating conflicts. And so they called me up, and Walt Tkaczuk, who I played against in junior, he and I get a place to rent together in Long Beach, and it was $200 a month. And then we came up with the idea that we went to Emile Francis. We said, Kat, you call people up and you have to put them in a hotel. Well, we've got a 3-bedroom place. If you call people up, they can stay with us, and we can give them a ride to and from practice, etc. if you pick up a third of our rent, which he did. So it was only costing, $67 a month, which was pretty good.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, times were tight.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite memory or game or story from your time with the Rangers before we talk about that transition to the Bruins?
I'll tell you a couple stories. One was
yes, we're
Walt
so excited.
Walt and I we went out for a few beers after practice one day, and we're about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. We had to bite to eat, and we're heading back, and we're driving over the bridge from Island Park into Long Beach. And as we pull over on the main drag, all of a sudden, we got a police officer behind us. And the police officer pulls us over. Walter's driving. And he says, out of the vehicle. And we get out. And he looks at his license and registration. And he gets the license from Walter. And he says, what the is this? You want me to believe that your name is Walter and you're from South Porcupine, Ontario? Are you kidding me? Well, I'm laughing, right? And he says, I can't even write that. I'm not giving you anything and lets us go.
Oh.
So we get in the vehicle and we go up and we make a right on another main drag. And Walter says, "Can you believe that guy? And what he said about my name and where I'm from?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "That was unbelievable." And we go along another mile and all of a sudden, and another police officer pulls us over out of the vehicle, gets the license. What the? You want me to leave your name as Rick? And you're from South Porcupine. Now I'm rolling on the grass. I'm laughing so hard. He let us go. Right. So I always remind Walter of that story.
Oh my God.
Now Walter has a dry sense of humor. And our first year, we took our signing bonuses and we bought brand new Dodge Charger, 1969 Dodge Chargers, the Duke of Hazzard car, right?
Nice car.
These babies could hum, right? And so anyways, Walter goes to practice one day and we're rushing to get there on New Year's Day for practice because we'd been out New Year's Eve. And his car got stolen because he left the keys in the door. He was in such a hurry to get to practice. So I'm driving our car, and we come back about 2 weeks later, and we come back on Air Canada on a charter, and we arrive in Kennedy Airport about 2 o'clock in the morning. And we get in my car, and we pull out of the parking lot, and you have 2 lanes. One goes this way, one goes that way, and there's a U-turn. And I pull in behind this like 1956 Dodge DeSoto with the big wingtips on it and all the lights down the thing. And he's waiting for the cars to go. And he's waiting and waiting, and all the cars go. And he said, come on, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We got to get home and get some rest. And he goes about 3 feet. He starts to go, and I hit the gas. He went 3 feet and stalled. Bang! I hit him in the rear. Oh. I said, that son of a bitch, I'm going to kick. And I get out my door, and Walter gets out his door. And the 4 doors on this Dodge DeSoto open up, and about 8 Hispanic guys get out with the biggest driver you ever saw, like 6'4", 6'5". And I look, my mouth's wide open, and before I can do anything, Walter yells, "Our fault!"
It's saved you guys.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh my God.
Oh, that's too funny.
Those are good.
Yeah. So it's life is pleasure sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
How pleasurable was it for you though when you got traded to Boston? Because I don't think it was that welcoming, was it? Considering that the Rangers and the Bruins, you guys were pretty big rivals. So what was it like when you walked into that dressing room for the first time? As a Bruin, not away, being a Ranger.
I used to get a police FBI used to escort me from the dressing room to the ice and from the ice to the dressing room whenever I went to Boston.
As a Ranger?
As a Ranger.
Oh my God.
I was public enemy number one. I'd written a book and I'd criticized the Boston Garden, and I said something that you didn't think was very nice about Bobby Orr at that time, but New York and Boston hate each other. You had the Yankees and the Red Sox, you had the Knicks and the Celtics, and New York and Boston had this love to hate each other attitude. So I was public enemy number one. And then I got traded to Boston, and it was like, I hated Boston. Why would I want to? I didn't want to go there, right? Just as Phil Esposito didn't want to go to New York, I didn't want to go to Boston. And but the last game I played for the Rangers was in Vancouver, and John Rattel and I won. Ratty was first star, and I was second star. And then we went to Oakland, and then we had to come back to Vancouver, and I played my first game for the Bruins in Vancouver. And Bobby Orr was just coming back, And so walking in the dressing room, it was quite an experience. I mean, most of the guys that I had a lot of beefs with weren't there anymore. Some of them, and they'd gone to the WHA or whatever, or they'd moved on. So I'm probably the only guy that cut Terry O'Reilly and got away with it.
Oh, do tell. Tell us more.
And playing in New York the year before, and I'm carrying the puck out, and Terry O'Reilly's coming from my left side, and I make a pass, and all of a sudden, there he is, and I have to move my left foot, and he's on all fours. He's on all fours, right by my leg, and I take his head and I jam it into the ice, and I split him right here, and he gets up and comes after me. And we end up wrestling, and now we're on in a pile up, and everybody's on top of us, and I'm on the bottom, and Terry and I are nose to nose, and he's bleeding on me, and he says, "You jammed my head in the ice." I said, "You're damn right I did. You tried to fall on my ankle." He said, "I did not. I'm just clumsy." Right? So now. For the rest of that game, we played him 2 more times. Terry is running at me, and I am dancing and jumping like a ballerina to get out of the way. So the next year, before we play each other, I get traded to Boston, and I go around. I'm meeting all the guys in the dressing room, and I come up to Terry, and I said, "Hey, Taz, how are you?" And I put out my hand. And he puts his hand out and he pulls it back. He says, "I owe you." And I said, "Yeah, you probably do." Right. And
oh no.
once a month, while we played together, once a month in practice, he would cold cock me, knock me on my ass. And I'd look up and I'd say, "Are you even yet?" He said, "Nope, not yet." So
man.
all because I thought he fell on my ankle.
Oh.
And times were different back then because you didn't wear helmets.
Correct.
So it's tough.
Yeah, I mean the helmets came in mandatory in 1979. So I mean I went to 85. I never played with a helmet. I just didn't like the feel. And the other thing too is that the guys tend to keep their sticks down if they know you don't have a helmet, right? And guys with helmets, you could go like you go in the corner and you go right on top of the helmet. You weren't going to hurt them, but you'd put them on notice.
Mm-hmm.
But they couldn't do that to you.
Oh,
well, but they did. At times they did. They went boom.
Well, why don't we talk about Bobby Orr and your guys' relationship? Because when you came to the Bruins, he was still a part of the team for a couple of games, but you guys fought each other. You technically have played together, for a short period of time. So how did you describe your relationship with him back then? Like you hated each other, or like a mutual respect, or what was it like?
I think we were very competitive. He was such a great player. I mean, he was just an amazing player. I was good, but he was the best. And to this day, there's never been anybody like him. He revolutionized the game. He had this amazing skating ability where he could change speeds 2 or 3 times. Great sense of the puck, terrific shot. And I mean, I've experienced it at times. They wouldn't say all the time, but I think that he saw the game in slow motion. That's how keenly. And at times, it appeared slow motion to me too, but not all the time. Especially when there's a 6'3" real bad guy on your tail, going back to get the puck. But when I got to Boston, the Bruins were in last place, and Bobby had been out. And he was just coming back. So we lost the first game in Vancouver, and then we went on a streak for the next 9 games. And then his knee acted up again on him. The game plan was simple, was the idea that one of us would be on the ice all the time, except on the power play, we would both be on. And
Wow.
we'd have Bertel and Busick and Cashman up front. And in those 10 games, I think the power play was operating around 50%, which is unheard of. And Don Cherry used to give us heck because we'd be back and forth across the point, out of the point, moving it. And he'd be, one of you, please, just one of you, shoot the damn puck. And but the other thing was it was so successful because of Busick and Cashman and Bertel. The forwards were good with the puck. They could thread the pass. They were patient. They never rushed it, and that was a key. All the passes, over sticks, through skates, everything like that. So, just amazing fivesome to be on a power play with.
Yeah, jaw dropping.
Yeah,
Well,
and then
exactly.
we were going to Chicago after 10 games, and I'm walking down the ramp to get on the plane, and Bobby's walking off the plane. And I said, this is not good. And he had his knee had acted up again, and he had exposed nerves because of cartilage on his knee, and so he was in extreme pain and swelling. And that year, he never came back. And Don Cherry played me so much that we continued. By Christmas, we were in first place, and we went right through for that and had a great season. So, but there was more talent on that team than people give us credit for. Guys like Busick, Cashman, Greg Shepard, Bobby Schmatz, good characters. Terry O'Reilly was the heart and soul of the team. So it was such a fun dressing room with all these guys. It was great. I mean, in New York was too. We were close in New York and found the same atmosphere with these guys in Boston.
I mean, locker rooms are the heart and soul of any team, right? Is being able to connect with your teammates. But I mean, when you watch a hockey game, it seems so flawless and seamless on the ice. Like things just flow and happen. And for you, like what goes through your mind when you're, speeding down the ice and you have to make these incredible passes and these plays? Like what goes through your mind? Because I think in our eyes, it's just instantaneously, but there's a lot of thought that goes into it into like split seconds.
Once you learn what works and what doesn't work, you have to realize that the timing of offense. First of all, I have a hard time with today's game because I find it like a chip and go game, and it was a long stretch pass and tip in, and then you got to go get the puck. And my era was a puck control game. So you came up the ice with more puck control, more east-west passing as you came up. So by the time you get to the other team's blue line, you have numbers and you have speed and you have puck control when you hit that blue line. And the idea is, sometimes you're forced to make a pass. And the idea being you make a pass if you're going to beat somebody. If you make a pass that doesn't beat anybody, it's almost a wasted pass. So the idea is you get up there and say, okay, you got to hold it. Now, that's when the pass goes. And if you pass it, just for example, on a 2-on-1, if you're going up the ice and you make a pass before you get to that defenseman, that pass doesn't beat anybody, that's a wasted pass and a potential turnover. But if you get to the defenseman and the pass beats the defenseman so that even as he turns, he can't catch the guy you passed it to, that's a good pass. So the timing of that pass is very important. And all players, whether it was my era or today, they know to skate to the holes. And the idea is to, if you get the puck there too soon, that's a problem. If you get it there too late, it's a problem. So you got to get the puck to that hole, and he has to be there. That's his job.
Little room for error there.
Well, the idea is that, do you have enough time to hold until he gets there? Sometimes you got to lay it with it like off, take some speed off it, so it's going to be there when he gets there. So.
Wow, you're quite the student of the game. Did you not you never wanted to coach or anything after your time playing?
I coached 3 months in Detroit. They gave me a last place team, and I was good. I was good enough to keep it there. Right.
Come on, that's not enough time. That's not enough time.
Well, things got a little political in Detroit at that time, and I had so when I got fired, it was more politics that general manager and I weren't getting along. I thought I knew more than him, and he thought he knew more than me. And I had played the game, and he had never played the game. So I thought I might be a better evaluator of talent, et cetera. But it got political. And at that time, I had 5 kids.
Wow.
And my second son has cerebral palsy, and he's in a wheelchair. And I had to make a decision to possibly travel around the country to do hockey management or hockey coaching, or get out of hockey. And I chose to get out of hockey and move back to the Boston area. And all my kids went through the same high school, and it was just great.
Yeah. You don't want to get into it now that the kids are grown?
I'm a little too old for that stuff now.
Oh, come on. Everybody, look, some of your former coaches was broadcasting for a long time. And
yeah. It's kind of things where I can talk it, and I hear people. I've talked to former players and say you can't bring what you know from the past to the present day game. I kind of disagree a little bit, because 2-on-1 hasn't changed in 100 years, and a 3-on-2 hasn't changed in 100 years. There's only certain ways to do it, right? The idea is I've asked former defensemen, active defensemen, college defense, everything. I said, okay, when you're going back to get the puck, what's the first thing you do? And they've said, I read the play. Okay. How do you do that? Well, I look. Great. What do you look at? What do you mean? I said, you're going back to get the puck. You only have time to look for one thing. What's the one thing you have to look for? I said, well, I look where my teammates are. I said, wrong. You know where your teammates are going to be. They're going to be on the boards. There's going to be one up the center. So you know where they are. Well, I look where those guys are. Or, you look at the guy coming. Wrong. Right? I said, you know that guy's coming. There's nothing harder in the world than to be a defenseman and go back and get that puck with a 6'3" a-hole on your tail with a bad attitude and try to be creative, right? That's the toughest job in the world. I said, you have to know what you're going to do with the puck when you get there. So you only have time to look for one thing, and you have to look for the second guy. And the second guy, if he's falling in behind the first guy, then the puck's got to go around the boards the other way. But if the second guy is going over to the other side, then you're going to have to reverse the puck, because there's going to be nobody over here and there's 2 guys over there. So you only have time to look at one thing. That's what you look at. And that kind of philosophy, is key to understanding what works in the game and why it works.
I think Breezy and I are ready with that lesson. We're ready to play now.
Yep, I think we're good.
Not even close, bro.
Put us in, coach.
Yeah, we're ready. You could coach us.
Yeah.
Do you have skates?
We could get them.
Yeah, okay.
We'll make it happen.
I don't have any. I don't have any skates.
What, you're done? You hung them up, and you literally hung them up. You don't go back on the ice.
Yeah, a number of years ago, I had my knees replaced, so I don't have the stability down in my knees anymore
Yeah.
to do that.
That's why golf is a good place to be, huh?
Right.
Similar transition, kind of swing,
Mhm.
and not really. It's completely different. I played golf. I do know that.
Sure.
So I do know
Sure.
that is nothing like hockey,
Yeah.
except for the fun times that are had there. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of tricks in the game, and that you can teach. If you're asked, and so I thought about doing some of that, teaching, but the opportunity hasn't come around.
What do you think is if you were to give one tip to a future player or someone that's currently playing now, what is like the one thing you would say to them to help them in their career, whether that's, what they're playing, with their mentality, with their physicality, anything like that?
Well, I think the first thing is, never to look at the puck when you have possession of it. You can't. Your head's on a swivel. You should be able to have the puck and look anywhere and never look at the puck. You feel it on your blade, and that's the main thing. Then you work on your skills in handling the puck and etc. There's I mean, they do a lot of drills that way. But trying to do that. I get a kick out of the All-Star game where they go in on the goaltenders. They do all these crazy moves, right? It's like, and those moves they do is you never do them in a game,
right.
But they practice them for something they'll never use. I don't understand that, right? It was like, I could never flip the puck high in the air, right? To flip it out of the zone. I could never do it, right? Until I got one of those new carbon sticks, and then it was easy, right? But I don't like the carbon stick because the blades are too lively. As soon as you take a pass and it bounces over your stick, and then you got to re-get it, you just lost your scoring opportunity. So that kind of drives me crazy a little bit.
When you were in the All-Star games, were they doing crazy tricks and shots, or was it just a straight up game?
It was just a straight up game.
Yeah.
And the winning team got $1,000 and the losing team got 500. And we'd all throw in $20 to the guy who get the winning goal on your team. So, I mean, a lot of the scores were 3-2, 2-1, 4-3, 4-2. They weren't high scoring games like they are now.
Were there a lot of pranks in the locker room with players and jokes amongst the players is a thing we hear a lot about with the current guys and in the recent years. Was that still a thing that existed when you played with putting shaving cream in people's shoes and taking laces out and doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we used to have the initiation where you shave guys and things like that. We'd go on the road. We'd have a rookie would walk into his room, and there'd be 3 cases of beer on ice, and he knew exactly why, because there was going to be a meeting in that room, and he was going to get barbered.
Did you ever have anybody prank you?
Not really. I think, not to that extent that it would be embarrassing. I did do some of the Wayne Cashman, though. Cash was big into cowboy boots. So we went on this road trip, and I was his roommate. He was a wonderful guy, great roommate. And we went on this road trip, and he went out and he bought these cowboy boots. He brought them back, and he said, "You like these boots?" He says, "Great." He says, "Snake." You go, "Don't touch it." And he'd been going around. So his first day, he went around, and he went to everybody, and don't touch him. It'll bite you. And so I was downstairs with him. I had somebody go into the room and take one of his boots. And because I was with him, I wasn't the guy. So we went on for the rest of 2 weeks. He's running around crying the blues because one of his boots is gone. And every once in a while, I would go down to the lobby and I'd call up the room and he'd answer. And I'd go, shh, shh, and hang up. And I did that on the whole trip. And he was so depressed. We got back to Boston. We're standing down by the luggage rack. And we're all waiting for our bags. And all of a sudden, the belt starts. And he's standing there. And down the belt, there's this boot coming down. So.
Oh my,
man.
that's good.
Yeah, it was things like that.
Do you have like an all-time favorite hockey moment? Maybe it's your most favorite goal that you've ever done.
I think my favorite moment was the 1972 Summit Series. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary in 2022. You guys probably have never even looked it up, but it was 1972 during the Cold War. There was an 8-game series between the Soviets, who had been winning the World Championship and the Olympics and everything like that, and the NHL, also an NHL team which was called Team Canada. And it was right when the WHA came in, and guys like Gordie Howe and Bobby Hall were not available. Jerry Cheevers in there. And the Russians were in mid-season form. It was in September. And we played the first game in Montreal. We got waxed like 7-3. And all of Canada was shocked. And they were in tremendous shape. We weren't, we'd only been in training camp for 3 weeks, and it wasn't a serious thing. But we knew after that it was serious. We won next 2 nights later in Toronto. We tied in Winnipeg, and we lost in Vancouver. And then we had to go back to Moscow for 4 games. And we went to Sweden for 2 games, and that got ugly. It was so bad that the Swedes were calling us gangsters and everything like that. And even the Canadian ambassador spoke out against us. And we were all guys that had hated each other. We're all from different teams. We went to Moscow and we knew that we had to come together. And we had a 3-goal game in game 5, and we lost 5-4. We had a 3-goal lead. We lost 5-4. So now we have lost 3, won 1, and tied 1. And but then game 5 was the first time that we had controlled large segments of periods that we were carrying the play to them. And we won game 6. We won game 7.
Oh.
Now the series is tied going into game 8. And they decide that they're going to change the referees and for game 8, and we almost don't play game 8.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do. And it's 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock in Moscow, 10 o'clock in Canada in the morning. And the entire country of Canada shuts down. The schools, if they don't have TVs in the schools, they send the kids home
To watch this game.
Wow.
to watch this game. And the whole country shuts down. 25 million people at that time. And we come out of the first period 2-2. We go into the second period. We end up coming out of the second period losing 5-3. And we're sitting in the dressing room. We're saying, okay, let's just tie it up and get the F out of Dodge. That's what we're saying in the dressing room. 2 minutes before we go on the ice, our management comes in and said the Russians sent the Soviets. They were Soviets at that time, not Russians, and they bugged our phones. They woke us up. They stole our beer. They stole half of our steaks. Anything to disrupt us.
Wow.
And they come down and say the Soviets sent a delegation down. That the game ends up in the tie. Under international rules, they win the series because they've scored more goals. They would have scored one more goal. And we're sitting there saying, where's this written? This isn't part of the deal. That's if the game's tied, that's going to happen. So we make it 5-4 with about 6 minutes in. And then we switch ends. And with 9 minutes to go, we tie at 5-5. The goal judge doesn't turn the light on, and one of our people come down to the penalty box, and the whole rink is lined. There's probably 15 feet from the boards to the stands, is lined by Red Army soldiers with guns.
Mm-hmm. Big guns.
And they're going to throw them out. And Peter Mihaljevic sees this and jumps the boards, and we run over and we're swinging our sticks at these Red Army guys to get the head of our delegation back. And the Russians are standing on the ice looking at us going, what's going on? And so we have a complete disruption. We tie the game up with 5-5. And with about 3 minutes to go, we've got a 2-on-1. And on the 2-on-1 is myself and my defense partner are the two guys going on the 2-on-1, because we know that if we don't win, they're going to claim the series. And Paul Henderson scores the winning goal with 34 seconds to go.
Wow.
So we won the last 3 games in Moscow in the Cold War. It's the greatest comeback in the history of sports as far as I'm concerned. And that's my so-called greatest moment.
Wow. That's a moment. That is a moment.
Yeah.
Did you celebrate there or get the hell out of Dodge, like you said?
Well, we did celebrate, and the next day we had to fly to Czechoslovakia, and we had to play the Czechs 2 days later because they were the world championships, because we had scheduled that game, and we ended up tying them up with 8 seconds to go.
Oh, jeez.
Oh man.
But then we flew back to Canada, and the whole country went crazy.
Wow.
So it was quite an experience.
I just can't
Sounds
even
like
imagine that pressure from like the state of like the political world and the tension from that. It's sort of like with the Team USA and the movie Miracle, and that people know of the real story. But did that like cross your mind while you guys were playing? Like,
Well, this was 72. This was before
the full
before the miracle. The
Right,
U.S.
right.
The U.S. miracle. This was 72, and it was the first time that the pros, Canada used to get their ass kicked by the Soviets, and they actually stopped going to the Olympics and the World Championships because the Soviets were, they were as professional as we were. That was their job, and the Canadians couldn't compete, and were tired of getting embarrassed until we showed up. So that was the new, and then what that did was that it just changed the whole culture in the National Hockey League. Yeah, Europeans can play, because up to that point, it was not, they couldn't take it.
But you weren't like concerned about like the political aspect of like importance of winning that series.
Oh yeah, you kidding? Are you kidding? No,
Well,
yeah. Once you go into we landed in Moscow, and you're going to see, soldiers, Red Army soldiers, and everything walking around with Kalashnikovs, which is a common occurrence. And there was no cars on the streets. There was only buses and government vehicles on these big streets. That's all you saw. You looked at the culture, in Moscow, there was no houses. It was all buildings, and it was yellow brick buildings. It was all apartment buildings. And they had big piles of yellow bricks. And that's where those bricks come from. They said, well, they tore down a building. I said, they're going to haul them away. He said, no, they're going to use the same bricks to build the next building.
Wow.
And to give you an idea, the electrical lines, like your telephone lines, your electricity lines, everything, it went from apartment building on top of the buildings, from apartment building to apartment building. There was no telephone posts down the streets or anything like that. So it was an entirely different way of life and different culture, and nobody smiled, nobody, and there was no reds or greens or blues. Everybody was charcoal brown in their clothing. So it was a Cold War. It was an entirely different culture, and we were getting firsthand knowledge of it. And they had a big department store called Gums, and we walked through there, and sometimes some of the stores were open, and they had lines for food, and some of the stores were closed, and because they had no foods or had no goods.
Wow.
So
I just feel like I don't know that there's anything that the current players could they've not experienced something like that from the like they're not going over to these other countries that are communist or socialist and having to see the red and the guns and just in that state in which it was, and then to go, all right, well, now go play some hockey against these guys and hope they don't do something to you on the ice and that you can still play. And
then we went to Czechoslovakia and went to Prague, and the Soviets had invaded Czechoslovakia, and we're in downtown Prague, and there's tanks on street corners, Soviet tanks on street corners to control the Czechs.
And you're like, we're just here to play hockey. How do you can't
this is I don't think there's going to be a parade today, right? So,
oh gosh.
No. Wow.
Oh man.
That's what the Cold War was, and it was the first time that we had a real look at it, and just going to that's why I signed up for Team Canada, the trip to Moscow, to Russia, to the Soviet Union, to see what their lifestyle was like.
What do you think of the Russian style of play of hockey?
I think it's a puck control game, which is more from my era. The difference is the width of the rink,
right?
Is because the defense they can move the puck back and forth, and the defense can drift. You got 15 feet wider, so you can hold it farther while guys crisscross and get in the holes. In the North American game, you don't have that 15 feet, so you have to move the puck a little bit faster, and it becomes a little bit more of a north-south game than an east-west game. But on the Olympic-sized rinks, an east-west, guys can pick up speed and get in holes, and the guys can hold the puck a little bit longer to wait while they wait till the guy gets there. So it's a little different style. But their whole thing was to circle back, puck control, and be trying to hit the blue line with numbers and speed. And the difference was that we had a lot of our guys were 30-ish at that time, and the experience was as far as the defensemen that we had, it didn't matter what they did, crisscrossing and everything. When they got to the blue line, we were plugging the holes and forcing the turnovers, and because we were better than the amateurs that they had played before, and that was frustrating to them.
What did you love most about playing hockey?
My afternoon nap.
Why?
Because I was good at it. I was an all-star.
I know. Come on.
No, I think it was the satisfaction, the competition, two guys going in the corner and one guy comes out with a puck. You're challenged 3 or 4 times a week. You know, football you play once a week, and baseball you play 6 times a week or 7 times. And there's always the next game. There's always the next thing. The body contact, the physical intimidation, the ability to, if you really want to hurt somebody, you can. It's your choice whether you do that or whether you don't do it. Today, there's too many TV cameras. Gordie Howe couldn't play today because he'd be suspended all the time. So I think the competition level was just something that I craved.
Yeah. Who did you fight the most?
Guys that took cheap shots at me.
That's a good reason.
Fair enough.
I mean, in my younger days, I would initiate confrontation because being young and aggressive. Later, I would become retaliatory vicious, which means I would have no qualms of opening somebody up.
Yeah, that comes with age, right? You're just like,
Well, it's like, I'll play you legit, but if you want to take a cheap shot at me, well, we've just gone to a different plateau.
Yeah, they better watch out.
Yeah.
So,
You're a tough guy on the ice. I wouldn't mess with you.
I've got the scars to prove it too. That's why I'm in the dark here.
No. Okay, tell us about, do you have a favorite guy you played with or against? Like you played with Ray Bourque, as you mentioned, Terry O'Reilly, Mike Milbury. Obviously you're coach Don Cherry, but like, do you have a favorite guy you played with, like a teammate either? And those aren't any of the guys on the Rangers, or any of the guys from that time.
I think one of the great guys that I played with. I mean, Wayne Cashman was a guy that you could go to war with, and the other guy who was the heart and soul of the Bruins when I was there was Terry O'Reilly. And Terry, there could be 100 pucks on the ice, and he'd want the one that you had. And I remember my first practice with him was, and this is true, I go to Boston, and Bobby Orr picks John Rattani up at the Sonesta hotels, and we have practice at Winthrop High School. And so we go over to Winthrop High School, and they have a rink next, attached to the high school. And so I'm sitting there, and I put my long johns on, and I turned to Donnie Marcotte, and I said, "Donnie, where's the washroom?" He says, "You have to go in the school." It's okay. So I walk in the school, and now I'm in the hallway, and there's a boys' room right there. And I go into the boys' room. Now, we're in the NHL, right? I go in the boys' room, and I got to do my business, and there's no stalls. There's just toilets. So I sit down and do my business. Right? And all of a sudden, the bell rings, and all of a sudden, all these kids are walking in on me. And I'm sitting there, sitting down with my drawers down, right? And so this is the NHL, right? This is perfect.
Oh boy.
And I go out on the ice, and I start skating around with a puck, and Terry O'Reilly comes and takes it. No problem. I go get another puck. He comes and takes that. I go get a third puck. He comes and takes that. I said, no. So now I go get the puck back. And the reason he was doing it, he wanted to play keep away, which is one puck, two guys. And, you keep going back at each other and trying to beat each other and everything like that. And he knew I was really one of the best in the league at handling the puck, stick handling, everything like that. And after about a month, I wasn't sure I could beat him anymore. He became that good. And he actually led the Bruins in scoring for a couple of years while I was there. He made himself into a complete player. And it was such a fun thing to watch. Right. As many as he was a fighter or anything like that, he became such a a force on the ice with and without the puck, and that was really entertaining to watch.
I bet. So, would you say that he became a better player because he played keep away with you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I became a better player too. I mean, he was so good with his feet, and and then finally we retired, and I moved back and I'm playing with the Bruins alumni, and we're skating around in a warm up before a game, and I got a puck, and I mean, we're 40 years old. He comes and takes my puck
Oh,
again.
wow. Old
He,
habits
wa-
never die.
he wasn't done. He wasn't done. But that's tennis. That's why they call him the Tasmanian Devil.
Oh, that's funny.
Perfect name for him.
What
So
did
do
they
you
call
have?
you? Oh, sorry, Breeze.
Oh yeah.
What did they
No,
call
yeah, no.
you?
And Parky, that was
Parky.
stupid at times. So that worked too.
Oh
No.
jeez.
Breezy, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, do you have a current favorite player? Do you follow any teams currently? Watch it actively? Do you think there's best of the best?
I like guys that are good with the puck. I mean, I get a kick out of Patrick Kane, right?
Yes.
Not so happy about some of his off-ice stuff, but on the ice, he's really fun to watch. So guys like that are take the puck and every defense. If you have guys, one or two or three guys that can beat somebody one-on-one, every defensive system breaks down. Because once somebody beats somebody one-on-one, it pulls somebody out of a position, and then you can really generate offense. So if you have two or three guys a team or four guys a team, it would be unbelievable that can beat people one-on-one. Your offense is going to click. So a guy like Patrick Kane can do that. And the guys that are good with the puck and good passers. Bergeron for the Bruins is both side of the puck guy, and he makes a lot of great players. I kind of watch Boston a little bit because my kids are big Bruins fans, and they're always on me. Did you watch the game? Did you watch the game? So.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, between you and Orr kind of being credited with creating the most, offensive defenseman kind of pair up, who would you say nowadays leads the NHL and the best of being the best offensive defenseman?
Well, I think one of the most gifted guys is Carlson out in San Jose.
Mm-hmm.
A good puck handling defenseman is like a quarterback. They'll speed up, slow down the game. They'll sell you one thing, and do something else. I mean, I know I'm going to pass it over here, but I'm going to sell this over here. And you're selling that. You're going to make the play over there. And so you look for those defensemen that will go back against the flow. Right. But I don't think that the kids today or in the last 20 years have really not been encouraged to try and beat people one-on-one. I hear this from, they have to take it upon themselves. I have a grandson that plays, and and my son, his father, stresses to him to, take it, do some magic. Don't be afraid. Take it for a whirl. And you want to go coast to coast, go ahead. And generally, hockey today, coaches at youth levels don't really encourage kids to develop that skill to beat people one-on-one. And it's kind of a shoot it up the boards and tip it, dump and chase, chip and go, and which is really kind of interesting because when I look at, I remember coaching my boys, and the first thing I would tell the team is, if you shoot it in, I bench you. And you have to, and they looked at me, and the reason was very simple. In youth hockey, you only have one practice, maybe two practices a week. you don't sit there and work on drills of standing up and forcing turnovers. So youth hockey teams do not know how to stand up and force the turnover. So if they're not going to stand up, why are you shooting it in? That's the theory of the game. Carry it in. If you can carry it in and get in without possession, you're going to generate offense. So, when you look at youth hockey team, they don't know how to stand up. So why are you dumping it in? And you have to realize where the dump and chase came from. And the first few years of expansion, the original six was kicking the crap out of the expansion teams, because the original six, we constantly practiced standing up and forcing the turnovers. And the expansion teams didn't have the quality of players that could carry it across the blue lines, and they were getting killed. So Philadelphia started the dump and chase, not because they wanted to, because they felt they had to.
Mm-hmm.
And but that has now become the norm, dump and chase. And I prefer if they're going to give me a little room, go hang them.
Yeah, a little bit of room is a mile in hockey, right?
6 inches is 3 feet.
Yeah. It's a way to look at it.
Yeah.
How was your induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame? How did you feel about all that?
I'm from Toronto, and when I got inducted, they didn't have a Hall of Fame. They closed the one that was there because they were moving to a new building, so I didn't even get a chance to go and see myself until a few years later. And just lucky. But I went in with Guy Lafleur and Tony Esposito. And, it was great because my parents were there, my family was there, all my kids. And my wife had the best time. And I had to go to the room at 11 o'clock and put the kids to bed because she wasn't going to do it. So, and we're still married.
Hey.
Priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Priorities.
I don't know what you're going to think about this, Brad, but.
Yeah, I don't know, but let's jump into the final three.
Okay. All of our guests, we ask everybody this. So who is your favorite hockey hunk?
Hockey hunk?
Yeah, like who do you think's the hunkiest looking guy in the NHL?
They all wear helmets and face shields. How would I know that?
I know. We get a lot of Henrik Lundqvist and, guys like that you see it with their mask off, modeling in GQ and stuff.
Really? Yeah. I did a thing for what the heck was it? Back in the day, they did all different sports. I did, an underwear ad, national underwear ad with, I think it was Fruit of the Loom.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all different athletes from different sports. And I was there with skates over my shoulder, a T-shirt, these boxer briefs on.
So are you nominating yourself?
No, they were, yeah. No, they were boxers. They weren't briefs. They were boxers.
All right.
They hadn't invented briefs yet. So, but I don't think anybody ever qualified or did that kind of stuff back then.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite hockey lady?
Hockey lady. Yeah.
It could be your wife. It could be a woman player, coach, or anything current or in the past.
I think one of the people I got along with over the years was Christine Simpson, who is kind of works in Canada, and she met her through the Hockey Hall of Fame, et cetera. And she branched out, and everything from interviewing to things like that. Just her brother Craig Simpson played with Edmonton, so nice girl.
Well, I got to give you a little bit of background. So we were asking, favorite hockey stories from all of our guests, and there seems to be a trend in Sidney Crosby stories. So rather than being surprised, we just asked, do you have a Sidney Crosby story?
Do I have a Sidney Crosby story? Um, I think, yeah, I do. I do.
Ooh, all right.
I mean, a few years ago, the NHL came up with a senior bonus pension plan, and it involved for guys that play, from before 1985, when they changed the pension system and everything like that. And you got to award X number of dollars for each year, and you get that you played. And the owners put in $3 million a year, and the Players Association put in $3 million a year. And a few years ago, the Don Fear, who heads up the Players thing, was wanting to cancel that. And the owner said, "Well, we're still putting our $3 million in," which was Bettman, and it was there was risk that this program would go out, which benefits a lot of guys from my era, et cetera. And all of a sudden, Sidney Crosby stepped up and said, "No, and the weight of his opinion kept it going. So I thank him for that.
Good guy. We love Sid
Such
here.
a good guy.
That's awesome. Well, where can people keep up with you today? Do you do Instagram? Are you on TikTok? Where can do you have a website? You've got a book. You've got a couple books and stuff. So
yeah, you can't find them. They're collector's items now because you can't find them. But yeah, I don't know. I got a call today from a friend of mine in Canada who's in the marketing business, and there's a new website starting in Canada called a Swedish website called Memo, MEMMO, which is similar to Cameo, right? And trying to recruit me for that, and I'm calling my kids to find out, do I really want to do that or anything? So that's what I'm weighing now. That's about the only way. I was, as I told you, Rachel, I was thinking about, doing a website, doing stories, and then recruiting a lot of guys I played with or against to get their stories and everything like that. So, which would be a place to go and have a few laughs and learn about things on the ice and off the ice. From my era or other eras. So it's something that I'm weighing. How much I want to work at it is another question. But it's in the back of my mind.
Can't interrupt the golf game. So priorities again.
Yeah, actually, I play more in the winter because I'm in Florida, but in the summer, I'm up in the great state of Maine on the lake. So I don't play much golf up there.
Yeah. Summers up there are beautiful. I've been up there I was up there all summer. So
but Maine's for the kids and the grandkids.
Yeah, it's a great place. Well, we'll have to, Breezy and I we'll stay on you to make sure you get your podcast up and going and telling your stories. Breezy's good with names and marketing, and we're here to help you. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate this so much. Like, you've got an entire career that there's no way we can fit into, an hour and 15 minutes and stuff. So, we'll have to have you back on, and maybe you can get Nifty or Cheevers to come with you, and you guys can come tell some stories together,
You bring the beer, we'll bring the stories.
Sounds good. We'll just like
Perfect.
we'll send an Uber Eats car or something to your house, and you guys just all sit here in front of the video. We'll just chat with you.
Yeah.
So one last advice to everybody that plays hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can always buy teeth. Go get them.
Thanks for coming over to our House of Hockey podcast and hanging out with us. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And in the meantime, you can follow us on social media. Just look for House of Hockey podcast. We'll be back next week.